Welcome into Morning Invest on this January 12th, 2022. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And coming up on today's show, empty shelves, grocery store shelves, totally empty. A lot of towns across America, we're experiencing high inflation. We just got the new inflation numbers out just a few moments ago, and it is not good. We'll tell you what those numbers look like and what this means for the broader economy and your wallet coming up on today's show.
Plus, after a year of paying off debt, Americans seem to be piling more on. We're going to talk about those trends coming up.
You said moron. Dr. Fauci got caught on a hot mic yesterday calling a member of Congress
he said,
a moron.
what a moron.
What a
is
moron.
trending, actually. Hashtag what a moron.
Yeah. Also coming up, we're going to go through all of the latest on Omicron. And it's really interesting how Europe is kind of maybe like really coming to its senses while China is lost its frickin' mind. So we'll tell you about the differences here in how Omicron is hitting different parts of the world and the political reactions to all of that. And I should mention Hillary Clinton in 2024 versus Donald Trump. You won't believe what Democrats are floating now as bring her back, baby. Bring her back, according to Democrats. We'll tell you about that and so much more. You guys ready to get uncomfortable on this Wednesday morning? Are you?
Oh,
I
yeah.
am now.
All right. Morning Invest starts right now.
Or at least it would.
It would, but I don't know where the video went. Darn it.
Nice.
All right. We're going to have to do jazz hands. Ready?
Yeah. Where'd the video? Where'd my video?
You guys.
Where did my intro go? I don't know. Anyway, all right. Hey, welcome into the show. Hey, we do have a daily newsletter for you. If you go to morninginvest.com, you can sign up for our daily morning newsletter just by going to that website. We cover about 5 or 6 big stories in the newsletter every morning. You can enjoy it over your cup of coffee. It'll brighten your day, make you smile, make you a little angry, but you'll be up to date and brought up to speed on all of the news of the day.
We try and make it palatable.
Palatable,
right?
yeah.
So we'll educate you, and then we'll bring you some stories to bring you back to reality a little bit.
And then you want to tell people how to become a channel member?
Oh, yes. You can go to morninginvest.com/join. The URL is right there, or I just said it out loud, morninginvest.com/join. Become a channel member and participate in our chat and get all kinds of other exclusives for $1.99 a month. We very much appreciate your support.
That's right. All right. Should we talk about...
Yes.
We just got the numbers out just a few minutes ago, and the U.S. inflation number hits a 39-year high. 7%. 7% is our inflation number. If you're keeping track at home, this is 1980s level, folks.
It sure is. So that is 7% in December from a year ago. This is the 8th straight month of this figure being higher than 5%. That means that it's staying higher, right? It's not going down. So that transitory, what's the word? Transitory word that the government would have us believe is not true yet. This is the 3rd consecutive month above 6% and the biggest annual increase since 1982. So what happens when inflation hits is that goods and services start to disappear, and that is exactly what's happened. Consumers are taking to social media to complain about empty. Every time I see empty shelves, I just want to sing the Les Miserables, empty chairs and empty tables. Where my friends, it's empty shelves, you guys. Empty shelves and empty tables.
Yeah.
It is not the time to be able to find your favorite things.
I mean, this is literally trending today. I mean, this phrase, grocery store shelves.
It's not a journalist taking a fake picture of the Valentine aisle.
No, look at this. I mean, these are across the United States now. These are store shelves across the United States. And I'm curious, there's a couple of reasons. Well, there's a number of reasons for this. Obviously, the supply chain, but you think about it too. Like wages are not keeping up with, wages specifically in like retail and fast food have gone up a little bit, but mostly wages across the board are not keeping up with inflation, right? Excuse me. If we want to look
They
at,
never have.
if we want to keep up with inflation from just a minimum wage perspective, use the Truman scale, right? $24 is what it would be. $24 an hour is what it should be. According to the Truman scale, $24 is what it would be. Now, you could probably look at it and say even higher than that. That would get us just like a poverty level, really. $24 an hour minimum wage just to keep up with
to
inflation.
be able to pay for a week of groceries and living expenses.
Yeah. And then on top of that, think about how rents are out of control.
Right. And it kind of blows my mind when you think about how relatively cheap American food is compared to other places because it's processed quickly and filled with fillers. And so even this type of food, you can see, like, we're not looking at a produce aisle. We're looking at all boxed, packaged things.
Right.
Which
Isn't
are
that
just
like America? It's like the stuff that kills us is cheap and the medical care that helps us is expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the stuff that's sold out is all of the highly processed crap. So maybe there's a silver lining here, is maybe what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. I'm trying to extrapolate because, okay, data shows that Americans spend the smallest percentage of their paycheck on food. And they get more processed food for it, right? So in America, an average person spends between 10 and 13% of their income on groceries. Mm-hmm. Okay. That obviously has gone up because prices are up, not because quality is up. No one is making the argument that quality is better, right?
Right.
Now we're paying more and all of a sudden we're getting good food, right? We always were buying food that was subsidized from the government and also full of chemicals and processed ingredients.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and how out of touch? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, how out of touch are our politicians to where, they're pushing for a $15 minimum wage, but that wouldn't have taken effect till 2015. Imagine what the prices are going to be like in 2015. You know what I mean? And they were going to do $15 a minimum wage. What would that do to people in New York, in California, in bigger places? Like nothing. Absolutely
nothing. Didn't
nothing.
we already
That's
pass
like below
2015?
Poverty.
We did pass 2015.
I mean 2025.
We lived that year, didn't we?
2025.
Okay.
Not David. He's still in. He's
in
looking
a time
forward. He's
warp.
looking forward to it.
I'm behind Joe Biden. I'm still in.
Okay.
He's in 2020.
You're still
Okay. But the thing is, like, for instance, UNICEF will do these surveys and survey what is the highest quality of food, in any given nation. The United States is usually 40th and below. So we're paying more for food that is not good and it can't get there, right?
It can't get where?
It can't get to it can't even get to
it can't get
shelves.
to the shelves, right.
Right. And so I guess there's just this big disconnect here.
Well, okay, so let's go through. I mean, the data that's out this morning is the consumer price index, right? This is the thing by which we're measuring all of this inflationary pressure right now. And so if you look at these forecasts for where, the where we thought it would be versus where it is, it's pretty on par with where we thought it would be. A little higher though. So
whose forecast is this?
This is the Bloomberg index, the Bloomberg survey of economists, who thought it would be like around 6%. It's actually higher than what economists thought it would be. And so-called core prices accelerated from a month earlier. Core prices. We're talking about food, energy. We're also talking about higher prices for rent, shelter, used vehicles, food costs, energy prices. All of this up significantly. And it's interesting to see, what the Biden administration is doing right now to sort of sort of pin blame on all of this, right? Kind of pointing towards that this is corporate greed that's driving all of these numbers. And it's simply not. It's simply not at all. In fact, Catherine Rampell wrote a really interesting piece on the Washington Post this week. I'd encourage all of you to go read it. She says, I don't know who is giving him this information, like who's giving him this advice to blame corporations as if somehow suddenly corporations are greedy. Like in the past year, suddenly oil companies are greedy, big businesses are greedy. Like this is what they've always been, trying to make a buck.
Right.
And so now that's the Biden administration's tactic right now, is blame big businesses for inflation. And nothing could be further from the truth, she says.
But it's just a fundamental, like your econ textbook will tell you when governments go on spending sprees and create money out of nothing, it floods an economy with money that is not in the hands of consumers, right?
Right.
And so what happens is inflation. That is just a direct result of this. Your econ teacher taught you this. And they are pretending that that's not the case, right? And so that means that they can say popular things like, we're going to give you stimulus, we're going to keep interest rates low, we're going to continue to spend on government programs and social spending programs, right? But that's spend, spend, spend. And at the same time, we're about to hit a debt limit again in February. And as if these things are not related. It's like, you can't just go to freshman economics, take a class and realize why this happens.
Right.
It would be so much better for the economy if they would just give even if they did like a $5,000 a month UBI for each U.S. citizen would do much better for the economy than what they're doing, because in all of this, they bypass the people that would spend the money the most. And like, if they gave it to the people, it would go right back to the corporations. It would go right back to, the things that they're trying to, like they bail out. So, they gave $5 trillion during the CARES Act to these 800 companies. If they would have given that money to the people, it would have went to those companies anyway.
And, there's some troubling thing. You're right about that. I think and we saw that having that money in the hands of the people circulated back into the local economy. It provided for local businesses. It helped families get out of debt. It buoyed everything. But at some point, there's a cost to all of that money, right? All of this fake money that's being printed. Chair Powell yesterday, of course, speaking before the Senate, is trying to say, okay, we are going to curb inflation, but we're also not going to do harm to the economy. I mean, this is their prediction. So this is Chair Powell's sort of prediction here. Let me put this chart up on the screen here, which is, okay, here we are in 2022 at the beginning. And that in red is where we see the consumer price index, right? So now that blue line is where we thought it would be. That you can turn that one red. Okay, that's where we are at 7% inflation. Chair Powell's argument yesterday is that we're going to be able to tame inflation, and see these blue lines here on the screen. We're going to be able to get it back down to about 2.5%, like where it was just last year. Okay. Do you buy this argument? Do you think that this is going to happen? Do you think that the Fed is going to be able to do this with the amount of money in debt that the U.S. government is sitting on?
I don't, because I am more in favor of Austrian economics, which say that any government perversion has unintended consequences. That is a runaway train.
I'm an Austrian economist supporter too, instead of Keynesian, which is what we have.
Yes, absolutely. And who was the politician that ran on? Was it Ron Paul?
Ron Paul,
was an Austrian. Yeah. And so the idea that, we've seen what happens when governments start to create perversions for their own economic gain. And it did seem like Ben Bernanke really didn't want to do this, and he had his arm twisted. But now look what happened, right?
So we have a good question in the chat, which is, see, where was it? So Lisa Pettit says, well, how are they going to do that? Great question, Lisa. And so you're asking the question, how are they going to get these blue lines, right? So, what Fed Chair Jerome Powell said yesterday, here's just a take of what he said yesterday.
The market is again strong. As always, challenges remain. Both the individual shutdown and the subsequent reopening of the economy were without precedent. The economy has rapidly gained strength despite the ongoing pandemic, giving rise to persistent supply and demand imbalances and bottlenecks, and to elevated inflation.
So supply and demand, right? So what he believes is that once we see supply open up, that it will catch up with demand, that this crazy amount of pricing, because we don't have the supply, will lower these prices. Used car prices will come down. But my question is when does rent come down? Right? So that's a huge number in this consumer price index.
Right.
So you're going to build enough homes in these certain areas, low income homes. Are you going to be able to do that quickly? The Biden administration seemed to say that they would under the Build Back Better plan, but that hasn't even passed. So addressing affordable housing is not even anywhere near the solutions table yet. I get the supply question. So trying to open up supply so that people have access to goods and things like that, so they're not overpaying because there's such demand, perhaps. But how are you not going to do harm to the economy? I mean, that's what Powell's saying here. We're gonna take care of this inflation without doing harm to the economy. I just don't see how that's going to happen.
No, because I think that any perversion is harm to the economy. We don't allow natural supply and demand to happen at all. We shouldn't even, no politician should use those terms, because
Well, and understand that when they talk about harming the economy, they're more worried about the Wall Street than us. You know what I mean? Like they're coming at
Right.
it from like, this is what Wall Street shows, which is not an indication of what we're experiencing. It's what Wall Street's experiencing, and that's how they look at it. Like, we're going to save Wall Street.
Yeah.
And I think and I want to go back to something that Catherine Rampell said in her Washington Post piece, because this is what Democrats are doing right now. Democrats are saying that it's corporate greed that got us here, and it's going to be us going after these corporations and arguing that the government is going to crack down on these profit-hungry jerks, is how Catherine Rampell puts it in her piece. Force them to offer better prices. Like, he met with the meatpacking industry earlier this week. He's going to force them to lower their prices. They're greedy. There's a lack of supply. So that's how things work. When there's a lack of supply, prices go up because the demand is there. The demand is higher, and they have to try to scramble to get as much as they can. She says, as I've written before, I like this part. She says, this corporate greed narrative is nonsense, she says. Corporations are always greedy. It's their job to make a buck. They didn't suddenly remember to become greedy in the past year. They're charging higher prices and booking higher profits because that's what happens when demand shoots up and supply is relatively constrained, as is the case today.
So it's hard to figure out what exactly, this is another example of the government picking winners and losers, because how then are they going to say, these corporations have been greedy, their profit margins are too high, and they affect the things that you then buy on grocery shelves, right? Like Q-tips or butter. But on the other hand, they let these companies price gouge for medical services and prescription drugs and all kinds of things. So why do we think they're okay with one, not the other, right?
No, because it's all politics, right? So they're playing this game where they can show President Biden meeting with the meatpacking industry and talking about oil prices, and it looks good on camera, but it's a losing argument. And unless the one thing that the president has the power to maybe do is to kind of affect what the Federal Reserve does, right? Right. And wouldn't that be perhaps more of a use of his power rather than trying to go after, Wall Street industry and so forth? And I think one big question I have is why in the world is the Fed still buying up mortgages? Why are they still putting money into these mortgages and buying up these mortgage-backed securities? This is a big issue. Why is the Federal Reserve still continuing to prop up the housing market in this way and still drive up prices? By them putting all of this money into housing, it's continuing to artificially drive prices up in the housing sector. And there's no reason for the Federal Reserve to have its hands in housing anymore. Because
they make money on those mortgages.
Yeah.
And you need to say it the way that it actually is we're buying up those things. And I think that that's the American people's money that are buying all that stuff so that they make more money to pass to their friends, because we don't see any of it come back to us. And the thing is, all of these companies know that, if Biden's going to go in, he's going to argue with them, we're going to go with the meat packers or whatever. And then all they're going to do is be like, look, if anything happens, you take some risks. We'll bail you out if anything goes wrong, because that's what they do. If anything goes wrong with these big corporations, they bail them out.
Yeah.
So they get all the greed without any of the risk.
Well, if you keep in mind that military personnel got between 2 and 3% raises in 2020 based on the new defense budget. Social Security recipients got 5.9%. None of those things are considered a raise now that the cost of living is up 7%. So most of those people got negative raises, right?
Right.
So sorry about that. Again, the government wants to blame somebody else because they cannot answer for the fact that additional spending, which is on the docket for the Democratic Party right now, will in fact make this worse. But they don't want you to think that way.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Americans are drowning in a boatload of debt. Through some of the stimulus plans, we saw people getting out of debt, right? This was sort of like a great sell-off. And now higher prices taking the toll. And again, if you're just tuning in, we just got the CPI numbers on inflation that just came out moments ago, showing that U.S. inflation hitting a 39-year high, 7%, and it's going higher. And it's the trajectory right now is continued higher amount. And so Americans are going further into debt. And I don't see it stopping at 7%. Even if the Fed raises interest rates, I see U.S. continuing to have higher and higher inflation, the U.S. dollar continuing to decline. Therefore, your dollar is going less further. What's the best way to say it?
Your dollar can
buying power.
purchase less.
Less
Yes.
buying power for the U.S. dollar. And most people use the U.S. dollar in the United States, unless you're using something else like crypto or something. But you're using the U.S. dollar to pay your rent, to buy your groceries. And so if we see this 7-year high or the 7% high and 39-year overall spike, this is a huge problem.
Yes, it is. So what can you do about it? We'll talk about the consumer debt in a second, but obviously grow your own food is always something that you can do, but most of you are in a frozen tundra, so you can't do that right now unless you've learned to can, which then can you teach me?
Well, what if you don't have a garden? What if you live in the city, right?
There was also a story in Reuters yesterday about how people who eat less meat will be able to save the planet. And that will help us reduce carbon emissions, which are dire right now. So you can reduce your meat consumption, which is, good for your budget and good for the planet. This is just the time, you guys, to be creative about your bottom line, because it does not seem like this is a sustainable way to live, clearly.
So as we look at this drowning in debt question here, so we have these rising prices, America's families falling deeper into debt. Over the past 2 years, according to the new data, median income fell 3%, while the cost of living rose 7%. Mm-hmm. So wages are not keeping up. Wonder why Americans are quitting in droves, trying to find better jobs. Rising housing costs, rising medical costs. I'd be curious here in the chat, how many of you are seeing rising medical costs? Because more than 3/4 of Americans had received some form of pandemic relief back in March 2020. That has all pretty much gone. So that's all pretty much dissolved. And more than 1/3 of Americans in this new survey said that their household financial situation has gotten worse over the past year. And I was stunned to see this, that Americans paid off a record $83 billion in credit card debt.
Yes, but let's go to the chart. I put it in the elements, but I don't see if you have it here.
Okay.
The chart from, I believe, NerdWallet shows what kind of debt consumers are taking on. And it does not seem as though they are actually taking on, yes, that one.
This one?
Let's just go to that one quickly. They're not taking on more credit card debt. What are the things that are increasing are mortgages. So people have either increased their mortgage, refinanced their mortgage, or got a new mortgage. This second one, any type of debt, I'm not sure what that's indicating there. Auto loans, okay, buying a new car. And student loans are up 2.5%. That perplexes me, but we can talk about that another time. But it does seem like people are not taking on new credit card debt, yet the average U.S. household is now, the average debt of an average U.S. household is $155,622. Now, obviously, with a mortgage, that doesn't seem that high. If most people hold a mortgage, that is high if there's no mortgage there, right? But that is $15 trillion of debt in the economy right now, and it's up 6.2% from last year. So 6.2 over, I guess that's the overall, this any type of debt. It's the average of increased debt. But it does seem to be that people are taking on, I'm going to use quotation marks here, the acceptable debt. Although in our course, the Financial Freedom Academy, we talk about how to evaluate any debt product, not just acceptable or not acceptable. But let's shelve that for a second. So it's in, I was, as I was thinking about this, that is a lot of money when you consider the average household does not make $155,000. So it's more than a year's worth of income that people are indebted over. So this chart, the second one right there.
This one?
Yes. Shows the percentage of debt of European countries to their income. So many European countries, can you zoom in on that, are under 100%. I was just wondering, is this an American thing? Because we seem to be at 150%, 200% annual income, right? meaning the average person would take 2 years of salary to pay off all of their debt, right? And so, yes, there are some high debt nations in Europe that are over 100%, but scroll down. There are several that are under 100%. So this is more specifically a United States problem. In China, it looks more similar to the United States, 100%, 100%. So I guess this is a question of why the United States allows such high debt to income ratio. Most lenders don't want a high debt to income ratio. So why are we able to obtain it?
I mean, it's a great question, right? Because in Europe, if you want to get a credit card, you're lucky to get a $500 credit card, right?
Yes.
That's about like the most you'll be able to get.
And it's usually not a rolling balance.
No, and yeah, you have to pay it off every month, and you have to have that much in your bank account in order to get the card. So they will look and see, okay, do you have enough to cover the $500? Now in America, I mean, when I was at the University of Pittsburgh, I would walk through the student union and there was a Bank of America table set up right there.
Yeah.
And I got a $500 credit card in like 2 minutes.
I think they're really not supposed to do that anymore, but look at the chart there with the purple. This is average family household debt in Europe, right? And it peaked in May of 2021 at $7,000. This is dollar signs. Yeah. So the average European, even if they're in debt, is $7,000, right? But the average American is $155,000.
Well, and think about the fact that most of that is probably, or a lot of it is probably medical debt that they don't have in, over there.
Yes, that's true.
Lisa Pettit in our chat says, I told my husband we need a U.S. exit plan in place. I think that's very smart.
Oh, we have a book for you. Put the book up.
Yeah.
The most recent book we read about this is called Nomad Capitalist, and I cannot recommend it.
In fact,
high enough.
A friend of mine texted me this morning, because we're in Portugal. A friend of mine in the United States, he lives in Missouri. He texted me this morning and he said, I need to get out. Like, I need help. And he's a businessman. He's got a successful business. Here's the book by Andrew Henderson. And he had, his book is Nomad Capitalist, really good book. And I would highly recommend it if you're looking into.
It's a different mindset. He recommends that you just think about go where you're treated best, right? So we talked about high taxes yesterday. We're talking about the types of things that you get for those taxes you pay. You don't get a good source of food. You don't get healthcare. You don't get really any kind of retirement plan. So, the idea that, there are other places to live. And I think it's worth looking at the rest of the world when you think about, why do we live like this with so much student debt? Why do we live like this with such high mortgages?
It's worth questioning. Is there a better way? But it's also protecting yourself. Like Lisa brings up, having an exit plan in place. I mean, it's not even just like if America collapses, because you could argue, as Harry Dent is arguing right now, we are headed for a massive recession. He thinks we're on par to hit 1929 levels right now, based in the stock market and where we're funneling all of this money. The data is pointing in that direction. $30 trillion in debt. The U.S. dollar buying power is collapsing. So it's not a matter of like just having a simple. You really want to protect your family in this situation, right? Like where do your tax dollars go? When you send in that check every year for your taxes, where is it going? It's going to fight wars around the world. It's not going for healthcare. It's not going for roads and bridges and infrastructure.
Yeah. It's at this point. Look, if you're the kind of person who's like, but I live here. My family's here. My life is here. I own this house, right? You can't just up and move. Most people can't or won't. And so there are other ways, though, to think about living your life. That's why we created the Financial Freedom Academy, to teach people to go through the list of what they have and what they owe and do better with just one thing at a time, so that you are not the kind of person who has this $155,000 worth of debt and you're just chipping it off little by little, minimum balance, without understanding the products you've got. What we try and teach people is to make your balance sheet, choose one thing, just one thing to do better with, and then break yourself of all of these, like just start throwing them off of you, the mortgage, the credit card, the student debt, all of it. There are a lot of ways to do that. You can do Financial Freedom Academy. We have a financial freedom cheat sheet, but you can't live like this. I hope for you that you don't live like this average American. No, you're not average. You're not basic. You're better than that. I know it.
Yes. Yeah, it's financialfreedomacademy.com if you're interested in learning more about that. It's
Or
like a
where's the
10 module.
cheat sheet? I never remember our URLs, you guys.
Yeah, you can go to morninginvest.com/freedom to get our free cheat sheet as well, if you're interested in that. We've got more news to get to here on the show. We're going to talk about Omicron and all of the machinations of Omicron, where it's what's happening in different hospitals and the latest numbers around the world. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about Hillary Clinton. Could Hillary Clinton become the Democratic savior in 2024? Pushing out Biden and running against Trump. You won't believe what Democrats are pushing now about Hillary Clinton. She's back. So all of that and more. But first, I'll tell you about it. You want to tell us about our friends over at Movement?
Sure. We want to tell you about Movement. It's an accessories company to make you look stylish and also keep you protected. Movement was started in a tiny Southern California apartment where two college dropouts teamed up to create a watch that broke all rules. It is fairly priced. It comes in nice fancy colors, and it has clean and original designs. This is Movement, MVMT. It is one of the fastest growing watch brands, and it ships to over 160 countries around the globe. Now Movement has expanded into their best-selling Everscroll blue light filtering glasses. This is for those of you who spend a lot of their time on a screen. That's all of you, because you're watching us on a screen right now. It's actually really great to make sure that you minimize the glare to your eyes while you're watching a screen, while you're working.
The blue light specifically.
Isn't that what I just said?
Glare.
Did I thought I said blue light glare.
No, you said glare. You just said glare.
Oh.
Because glare, I mean, who cares about glare, right? I mean, glare happens all the time, but blue light going into your eyes, that's the bad stuff.
Specifically, the blue light going into your eyes is the bad stuff. Clayton likes to wear these glasses around, and they're pretty handsome on him, if I would say so myself. And they also help to reduce headaches or any of the damage that comes from blue light, because most doctors will tell you that that is really bad for you. So Movement is crafted with top-tier materials. These Everscrolls filter out nearly 90% of the intense blue light rays and feature anti-glare lenses for comfort. They were designed in-house in these California headquarters, not the same small apartment, but in California. And they're available in a wide variety of modern, fashion-forward frames. If you want to protect your eyes with style that does not break the bank, join the Movement and get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns if you don't like them by going to mvmt.com/invest. Once again, it's mvmt.com/invest. Thank you so much for their support.
Watch right here.
Which one is that?
That is the oh man, I can't remember the name of it, but
It looks handsome.
go to that main page. It's right there on that main page.
Yeah.
Clever.
But
Yeah,
that's
gorgeous.
my date watch.
This is my date watch here too. I'll show you mine. I love it.
Very nice.
Handsome.
Ooh, I like the gray. That's kind of like a Batman kind of feel.
I know. That's why I got it. I love it. That's glare. See, when you see that there on the screen, that's glare. Anyway. All right, let's talk about this. So let's bring you an Omicron update now on what's going on around the world with COVID and the very latest here, because there's a lot of things to unpack. So there's been some controversial CDC statements that have been going viral over the past few days. And people like Donald Trump Jr., tweet about it. They're like, see, this is a reason why the pandemic is a joke and people aren't actually dying, etc. This is the kind of stuff that he's saying. Well, it all started thanks to Good Morning America basically editing this video wrong. I mean, the way that they interviewed the CDC director, Dr. Walensky, they cut out a huge context of what she was actually saying, and what made it into the final interview is horribly wrong and inaccurate. And so that's just the power of editing. So let me just play this video here, and this is what everyone freaked out about and why this went viral.
Lines that we're talking about this morning, this new study showing just how well vaccines are working to prevent severe illness. Given that, is it time to start rethinking how we're living with this virus, that it's potentially here to stay?
The overwhelming number of deaths, over 75%.
Did you notice that quick edit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, so what they just edited out and I don't know why they did this, Good Morning America, why they edited this out. Well, it caused a huge bit of controversy. So let me I'm going to play the full thing now, but I just wanted you to see that edit. So let's watch this now in full context here.
Lines that we're talking about this morning, this new study showing just how well vaccines are working to prevent severe illness. Given that, is it time to start rethinking how we're living with this virus, that it's potentially here to stay?
The overwhelming number of deaths, over 75%, occurred
That is
in
a
people
horrible
who
cut,
had at
too.
least 4
As somebody who
comorbidities.
edits.
So really, these are people who were unwell.
So let me go back and play that again, because that's very important what she just said here. Listen.
Are working to prevent severe illness. Given that, is it time to start rethinking how we're living with this virus, that it's potentially here to stay?
The overwhelming number of deaths, over 75%, occurred in people who had at least 4 comorbidities. So really, these are people who were unwell to begin with. And yes, really encouraging news in the context of...
Okay, so that makes it sound like everyone who's had COVID, who's died,
Has had
4 comorbidities.
okay.
Of 75% of cases of people who died of COVID, they had 4 comorbidities when they died, like meaning they were really bad in health, and that's why they died of COVID. So that's really good news, but that's not the truth. What they edited out was the fact that she was referring to people who died while vaccinated, who were vaccinated. I mean, it totally changes the context of this, right? So you had people like Donald Trump Jr. saying, see, what a joke this whole pandemic has been. No. It was totally inaccurate. So if you dive into actually, I mean, I don't understand how something like this even gets on television and how they chop this up, but this is not accurate. So Good Morning America, Walensky was responding to a question about some encouraging headlines regarding a new study talking about how well vaccines are working to prevent severe illness. Walensky then summarized the study, which is new and it's out, that 1.2 million vaccinated individuals, and then said the overwhelming number of deaths in those who were vaccinated, 75% of those people had at least 4 comorbidities.
Wait. 1.2 million died.
In this study of 1.2 million vaccinated people, of those who died,
Oh, okay.
in that study, 75% of them had at least 4 comorbidities. Totally different, right? So
Yes.
I know the right, and we don't pull any punches on this show.
So they're
we'll
saying-
go after Biden, we'll go after Trump, we'll go after inaccurate information all day long. The right was jumping all over this over the past 24 hours. You may have seen this go viral. People like Donald Trump Jr. and others saying, see, she's telling us that,
COVID always only was killing off the
Right.
most vulnerable population.
But which is not the case at all. As we know, there's been plenty of healthy people who died of COVID.
Yes.
So anyway, that went viral. In the full clip's context, it's clear that Walensky wasn't talking about COVID-19 deaths, but simply deaths among fully vaccinated people and simply those people who had comorbidities. So David, you pointed out, what a terrible edit, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can hear the news anchor's voice goes down slightly as it's cut. She's
And a
like,
breath. You can
and
hear
her
the
voice
breath.
slightly fades.
Yeah.
Which is
I don't understand.
trying to-
I don't understand why they would release this video. Like, you're cutting. Who at Good Morning America thought it was smart to do this?
Omicron,
Are working to prevent severe illness. Given that, is it time to start rethinking how we're living with this virus, that it's potentially here to stay?
the overwhelming number of deaths, over 75%.
I don't even understand that as a
occurred in
response to
people
that
who had at
question.
least
Right. So it's like you're sticking two things together. I just don't understand. I mean, so anyway, it caused controversy, obviously, because this thing is, now it's gone viral as a result of it. But anyway, just to be clear, if you have a friend who shares this on social media, if you see this pop up on your Facebook feed, you can debunk it and you can say, no, that's not accurate. That was taken out of context. And Good Morning America edited. I'm just curious what the motivation here is for Good Morning America, the way that they edited that.
Well, it seemed like her question was, can we get back to normal life? Right.
Right.
And so maybe that's the answer they wanted.
Or maybe that this was how it was released on social media, like that this is not the original segment from GMA and it was repackaged on GMA's website
Yeah.
somehow. Anyway, This is
and
the mainstream media.
A lot of them get
you know.
busted editing all the time. I mean, you remember like Fox News back showing the election results and stuff, and they had footage that was from like a rally for like I can't remember the Tea Party movement or something. And so they had like, you know, like, so that stuff happens all the time. That's why you can't trust mainstream media. They have an agenda, and if the story that the interviews that they're doing don't meet the agenda, they can edit it to make it look like it does. It happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we should point out that, you know, again, this is what the CDC is. Anyway, the CDC clarified this, making sure that people understood this is not what I don't know why this was edited in such a way. But there's more to talk about with Omicron.
Right. So it seems like in Spain, officials have floated the idea of now living with COVID as if it is a strain of the flu, which means that we don't actively prevent it. We don't quarantine one another in a preventative manner anymore. We treat it and we live with it as it seems to have spread like wildfire. This is interesting because not all European countries are going this way. Italy now is requiring vaccines for gyms, cafes, theaters, and public transportation. Otherwise, don't even bother to show up. Same in Germany, same in Austria. But now some Western European countries, such as Spain, are saying this is not really a sustainable way to live. And as more of us are now recovered from it, recall that Spain was, I don't want to say ground zero. I guess we called China ground zero, then Italy, then Spain, right? When the pandemic started, these were like the three hotspots. So a lot of people in Spain have had it, and they're saying we got to now have an exit plan. We can't live like this forever, and it's time. Nothing has been implemented, but the fact that politicians are willing to speak this way is interesting.
Well, it comes at a time, too, when you're seeing what's going on in China. I mean, going to this towards zero COVID China right now, they have over 20 million people are in lockdown. Look at the streets right now from AP in China. I mean, this is in Tianjin, has 29 communities that are now locked down because they did. And by the way, they looked at 790,000 students in schools, and 29 of them had tested positive for Omicron. So they shut all the schools down. Out of 790,000 kids, they shut all the schools down.
That's awful.
You know, like as Mayor Eric Adams of New York, good for him with common sense. He's like, first of all, it makes no sense that you would just shut down all the schools because you have a positive case. He's like, the reason we need testing, because what we can do is we can literally just go into that specific class. We can offer parents, here's testing kits for home.
Yes.
We don't have to shut down the whole school. We don't have to be overreactive. This is Eric Adams, the new mayor of New York City. I was like, hallelujah. Common sense is starting to flow back into the United States, maybe a little bit here. But China, it's certainly not. And they're doing all of this without 20 million people being locked down ahead of the Olympics. How are they going to handle all of these people flying into Beijing for the Olympics? How is that going to
idea.
When it's commerce, it changes.
I guess you're right.
Well, recall they don't have to worry about diplomats from Canada and the United States because both nations have said we will not be sending diplomats to the Olympics because we protest China's treatments of the Uyghurs. But we do send athletes. So sorry, we won't be coming to your cocktail parties, which is like, oh, please hurt me.
So Beijing is 80 miles away from Tianjin. Okay, this is where they're now putting in all of these lockdowns, 29 communities, right? So Beijing is 80 miles away, and you've had literally only 29 people have showed up with Omicron, which is being treated, you know, it's like the common cold, right? So now you're literally going to lock down an entire country, send kids to school, or keep kids from home from school. Like, in the zero COVID policy is laughable, and I don't know when they're going to finally wise up to this.
Yes.
But see, China doesn't admit fault, right? China's not going to.
No.
You know, President Xi Jinping is not going to say, we were wrong. This zero COVID policy didn't work.
Right.
So we're going the opposite direction.
Which means they will not open their borders for travel or for international. I mean, I guess if you're Olympian, but you can't otherwise go there for tourism.
Right.
So they won't, they can never do that then. What's your exit strategy? Wait till there's zero, open the borders, then there's a little bit again, and then go back to zero, right? This is not a long-term plan. It's not a sustainable solution.
On Wednesday, 425 flights were canceled in Tianjin, their international airport there. That's 95% of all scheduled flights. Now, in the United States, you had U.S. Airways in Newark. 1/4 of their entire staff called in sick. So United Airlines had to cancel thousands of flights out of Newark because people called in sick. In China, they are canceling their own flights. They're just canceling them because of 2 people get sick with Omicron. Unbelievable. Well, the European Union also, here's an interesting story as we kind of go through all of these Omicron updates, that the European Union, it's interesting. So the European Union is saying we're going to live with COVID. We're going to treat it as the flu from now on, basically. We're not going to shut down schools, right? And we also want to warn people in the EU about boosters. And EU is now warning people this morning about repeated boosters could weaken your immune system.
Based on what research are they using this?
According to the European Medicines Agency, they're saying that repeat booster doses every 4 months could eventually weaken the immune system and tire out people, according to the European Medicines Agency.
So they don't seem to be, that was the big concern, is that soon they would make it so that any full vaccination that's more than 6 or 9 or 1 year old, 6 months, 9 months, would be obsolete then. You wouldn't be able to use your code until you got an updated vaccine that was at least 2 weeks old. But no rules have been updated to reflect that. And it does seem like they are following the World Health Organization's guidelines that we can't boost our way out of this because it would create enormous vaccine inequality, and the vaccine and the virus would still travel amongst vaccinated people. So that's at least that's hopeful news.
Well, and the UK is saying this morning that boosters have provided good levels of protection, but they don't think, and the UK is saying there's no need for a second booster in the UK. And so it kind of earlier this month we saw Israel.
Yeah.
Israel became the first nation to start administering that second booster there, or the 4th shot to people over 60 years old. And the European Union is saying, whoa, wait a second here. This is going to actually have adverse effects if we keep injecting ourselves with this permanently.
Yes. Because a vaccine works like a training program, right? So you expose yourself to something,
right,
and then your body gets used to dealing with that something. In fact, vaccines, the idea of them came from African witch doctors. Did you know this? Where they used to take some of the virus and spread it on people's skin. And this is something that came from natural medicine. Vaccines come from the idea of inoculating yourself by exposing yourself to it. So you can run these training programs inside of your body, and your body's like, okay, got it. When I'm exposed to this, this is what I'll do, right? But how often are you going to run a training program without tiring out your body? It's an interesting question.
Well, also too is these antivirals, where the United States will not go on record and talking about these antivirals. The CDC, they're still saying, no, it's got to be the vaccine or nothing. The EU is saying at this briefing yesterday that, hey, things like remdesivir, Paxlovid, and other intravenous antivirals actually have really good efficacy against Omicron. So the EU.
Well, against all of them, not just Omicron.
Yeah, good point. But hey, the EU is saying, hey, these intravenous antivirals, go ahead. These are showing efficacy. Why can the European Union? What's that?
So are some orals, not just intravenous.
Oral and intravenous. That's what they said yesterday. So let me be specific. You're right. The EU regulator said that at that briefing yesterday that oral and intravenous antivirals showing efficacy against Omicron. Go ahead and take them. So
that we can't even say on this show without potentially getting suspended.
Yeah. So if my show is gone and we're taken down, all I'm doing is citing the EU regulator yesterday, as reported in Bloomberg this morning, about oral and intravenous antivirals.
You guys live on the edge.
Well, I'm saying if we mention the names of them.
Oh,
there's only one actually. If we mention one in particular, that's the one
that'll get us taken down. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned 2. Hopefully
are fine.
Okay, good. So again, YouTube, thank you, YouTube, for allowing us to have free speech here in the United States, where we can actually talk about these things. I mean, this is what the European Union is saying.
Yeah.
Can we report on that?
Wojcicki, Susan, we are not doctors. We are just passing on information.
Yes, exactly.
No, and I want to be careful about that because I think it takes a lot of humility to say you don't understand everything. We all should say that and not tell each other what to do, but encourage each other to seek out the best information that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Well, and to speak to that, I wish people would, because here's what happens to me a lot. So I listen to people that know way more than me. And that's where I get my information. I don't listen to, people that don't. I listen to them, but then I go fact check and verify and all that other stuff. But when, I share a podcast from like Joe Rogan or something with a very, very good doctor on it, people are like, I don't get my medical advice from Joe Rogan. I don't want to listen to Joe Rogan. It's like, no, you're not listening to the person doing the interview. You're listening to who they're interviewing. So, that's why I will listen to Tucker Carlson sometimes. That's why I will listen to these people that I don't necessarily agree with the interviewer. I want to hear the interviewee.
Right. That's called conviction bias, where you're like, oh no, I can only listen to things from people I'm already ideologically aligned to. And so then I can't expose myself beyond my own conviction bias, and it's so dangerous.
And I should point out, if you look at this news article, this is an example of misinformation here in the media. We showed you how that video was selectively edited from the CDC director, right? And here's a news article that says and regurgitates exactly that from the postmillennial.com. Says CDC says over 75% of COVID deaths were in those with at least 4 comorbidities. Literally spreading this misinformation, and
with no context,
right? And that's it. There's no update. There's no context at all. But this is what someone would share on Facebook, right? This is what Donald Trump Jr. would tweet about, and this is how misinformation catches fire across the United States.
I mean, meanwhile, Facebook prevents you from sharing things it thinks you haven't read. And Twitter, right? Oh, you're just sharing this. But this article is an exact example of that, but the news media is allowed to do it, but you're not.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. So here's Dr. Fauci. So yesterday, Dr. Fauci accused Dr. Rand Paul accusing Dr. Fauci of discrediting doctors who believed in the lab leak theory, specifically out of Harvard. And basically describe them as fringe doctors. So Rand Paul, during the Senate hearing yesterday, man, he went after Fauci. And so a lot of this is going viral today. I want to play a couple of clips of this, but this was a pretty important moment. Listen.
And you quote in the email that they, or from Dr. Collins, and you agree that they are fringe. And immediately there's this takedown effort. A published takedown, though, doesn't exactly conjure up the image of a dispassionate scientist. Instead of engaging them on the merits, you and Dr. Collins sought to smear them as fringe and take them down. And not in journals, in lay press. This is not only antithetical to the scientific method, it's the epitome of cheap politics, and it's reprehensible, Dr. Fauci.
So specifically about these doctors who were talking about the lab leak. Email exchange. But he also went further on slamming him on, on other issues yesterday. This is why this is trending today.
Yes. Well, do you think it's a great success what's happened so far? Do you think the lockdowns were good for our kids? Do you think we slowed down the death rate? More people have died now under President Biden than did under President Trump. You are the one responsible. You are the architect. You are the lead architect for the response from the government. And now 800,000 people have died. Right. Do you think it's a winning success, what you've advocated for government?
Senator, first of all, if you look at everything that I said, you accuse me of in a monolithic way telling people what they need to do. Everything that I've said has been in support of the CDC guidelines. Wear a mask, get boosted.
Except when you telling
he's
people not to.
He's helped guide those CDC guidelines, But the one thing that I'll say is he is denying a lot of this, but they have the emails. You can read. He's saying that it's all taken out of context. He doesn't know what he's talking about, but they have the emails. The emails cannot be taken out of context with what he's saying, because if you read it, it is an email thread. So how can he be taken out of context? And so it's all just lies on Fauci's part, because he's busted. The emails show that they did try to take down those scientists and make and he was saying, he came out with a Slate article. You can find the Slate article. So Rand Paul's accusations line up. Fauci's rebuttal does not at all.
And so the general sentiment now is that this is polarized Twitter, left, right. So the left wants to believe that everything Fauci says is true. All we have to do is keep getting boosted, keep having masks, keep having
'cause he's
lockdown,
science,
believe
remember?
him. Right. And the right is, and so then according to the left, Rand Paul's an idiot. Rand Paul's crazy. He's, like, oh, look at him. Fauci really took him down. He made himself look stupid. That's the left narrative. And on the right, it's, wow, go Rand Paul. Fauci's lying. We never should have done any of this, right? The truth is somewhere in the middle, but it's interesting to see that, especially when you search these hashtags like expose Fauci or what a moron is something that Fauci said on a closed mic. He thought it was a hot mic. He didn't know because someone was asking for his financial transactions. And so there are all these people who are saying, we must believe Fauci because otherwise all these shots we've already taken, right? Or all these things we've already given up in our lives will have been for nothing. And so they specifically just want to then piss on Rand Paul. Or it's like, the truth, you guys, is not, it's crazy it's, the truth is always going to be somewhere in the middle. You can't just jump on one of these sides and be like, yeah, get him, whoever.
But what happens is we tend to double down. Is to your point, that's what happens, right? And in fact, I was talking about this book that I'm reading right now, this new Malcolm Gladwell book called the Bomber Mafia. And it really, he highlights what happens in psychology, which is people, when people are told, like they've tried something and they are so passionate about it, like they are absolutely, crazy about a particular subject or a position, and then they lose or they fall flat. Instead of like saying, oh yeah, I guess that didn't work, right? And they turn around and go the other way. No, what they do is they usually double down.
Yeah.
They double down on that position. And they want to go further. They want to try it again, even crazier, perhaps, than before. And so rather than looking at the facts, they're rather just attack Rand Paul.
Yeah. Neepak in the chat, I think that's how you say your name, says, well, people say, oh, Rand Paul, he's just an eye doctor. He's an ophthalmologist. They have to actually go to medical school. He's not an optometrist, which trains outside of the medical profession. So, this is a proper doctor we're talking about. So.
And when you have the data come in, right, you have the emails and all that stuff, like it's hard to not go on the side of Rand Paul in this. And it's like I don't think it should be a right and left thing. And that's what everything everything happens where people plant their flags on the left and the right, and which is why we will never get past anything, because then it's like facts be damned. People don't care about the emails. People don't care if Dr. Fauci would be like, yeah, you're right, I started it, but you know what? I am responsible, but I made a mistake. People are still going to love the guy because they have painted him as a hero. They have put him in this light that he is untouchable. And so people don't care about facts. And that's the thing. It's like, this is a dangerous place to be. We have to take these emails and we have to look at this because we all are affected by what's going on here. And if he is responsible, then he should ultimately pay for what happened. Will he? Probably not. Nothing is probably going to happen because you're going to have so many people defending him still. And even in the process, you have people defending him still in there, even though they have these emails that they can read. And that's what I don't like, is when you actually get the facts and you still take the side of the person that's guilty. Yeah.
I mean, look, I would say I would feel more comfortable if I thought that Fauci if I thought that like everything he had been saying bore out, because I've followed all the rules. I got my vaccine. I kept my kids home. I've done all the stuff. So I don't like it to feel like, ooh, this guy will turn it, like it turns my stomach. But I don't think he gave a satisfactory answer to the question about the emails.
Someone in the chat.
So I can't then jump on the left like, we want Fauci to be right. Sure, a lot of us would.
Well, and to David's point, why does it even have to be? Like, what does Dr. Fauci being involved in gain of function research and lying about it have to do with liberal or Republican? It makes no sense to me.
Because it speaks to what side you followed, right? Have you followed the go along with the rules, get all your vaccines, or have you always been a questioner? Because it's just that black and white now in online discussion.
It's like the left is just completely embracing Fauci like he's some kind of magical hero, yet who brought him in? Trump.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So
people forget that. Well, of course, and then people would like slam him for questioning Fauci. Remember, Trump would get slammed for that. Like, oh, he's, you're questioning Fauci,
And we just talked about this earlier with podcasts, like people not wanting to get information. And this is the exact same thing. You may hate Rand Paul. You can hate him because he's ideologically different than you. But he is a senator, and he is questioning legitimate things through emails. And what does that matter? What does it matter what side he's on if he is actually getting to the truth? We should want the truth more so than we care about what side they represent.
Yeah, you're right. And I wish it wasn't just this reductive, an online conversation. Like, get him, Fauci. And I'm like, what did he get? What are we rooting for here? The conversation spins. Yeah. So do we really have to talk about Hillary Clinton? Can we skip it?
How are we going to skip it?
I see this on the rundown and I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom.
You can't. You cannot skip Hillary Clinton. And the reason we're going to talk about it is because Democratic operatives, remember, you loved Hillary. You read her books. You're a huge Hillary fan.
I didn't read her books.
I did not vote for Hillary. Anyway, Democratic operatives now say Hillary Clinton is the best option for the party to win in 2024. They say a perfect storm has emerged right now in the Democratic Party, saying that you have low approval numbers for Joe Biden. Vice President Kamala Harris is also really low approval ratings, and Biden will be 79 if he runs again for a second term. If he says he's healthy or not.
I love the data that like she's not 79. So.
Hey, they lose internet. I think they lost internet. So Natalie, Natalie may get her wish. Okay, you guys, I think you're back. You guys went offline, and I was like, hey, Natalie gets her wish. We're not going to talk about Clinton.
Oh, we were offline for a while?
Yeah.
We were frozen.
Yeah, you went offline.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have gone to the bathroom. Are we back?
We're back. We're back
now.
You can see over here. We're back.
Okay.
Yeah, we froze, and you froze in a really unflattering photo of yourself. No. It was like, give me your best frozen face. It was like, it was like.
Oh.
Anyway, yes. So Hillary Clinton's 2024 election comeback. Now, Doug Schoen, I've interviewed Doug Schoen many times. He is a Democratic operative. Andrew Stein, who penned this piece in the Wall Street Journal, making waves. They say a perfect storm in the Democratic Party is making a once unfathomable scenario plausible. A political comeback for Hillary Clinton 2024. Now, it should be known that, of course, Doug Schoen worked with Hillary Clinton very closely. So, is it them trying to set up their former boss for a comeback here? They say she is already in an advantageous position to become the 2024 Democratic nominee. She's an experienced national figure who is younger than Mr. Biden and can offer a different approach from the disorganized and unpopular one the party is currently taking.
A different approach.
Right. So
even
different.
More right, they mean?
Okay, so they're saying she's younger than him, but not by a lot. She's still 74. So let's not give her the youthfulness badge.
Yeah.
If that's what we're going for.
She's in there thinking, I know I can take this Democratic Party further right. I know I can. Let me at it.
Well, she did say in a recent MSNBC interview, she said, we need to be careful thinking about what wins elections, she said. It's not just in deep blue districts where a Democrat and a liberal Democrat or so-called progressive Democrat is going to win. She said this winning a majority comes from people who win in much more difficult districts. And I would argue, there's a lot of demographic data right now to show that this idea of a purple state is gone. Like, we are in such a divisive United States right now that it is red and blue. There are no purple areas anymore. Overwhelmingly, people when people are winning different districts right now, they are when Biden wins a district, he's winning by overwhelming margins compared to the competition. When Trump, overwhelming margins compared to the competition. They're not like close.
Yeah,
it's not close anymore. There's no purple districts. I mean, very, very few. And I think this is going to make it an even really interesting stage for 2024. I think this could be the most interesting presidential election cycle in U.S. history in 2024.
I don't
mean,
think she's the one to be
interesting.
telling people what they need to do to win an election, because she has shown time and time again that she's just like what you do is you don't put up a candidate nobody likes.
Yeah, there's something
Or
about
who
her
changes
that
with the wind. I mean, what
Yes.
does she even stand for? No one could figure out what the hell. What was her thing? Her slogan: "Move forward" or "forward," or it was an arrow. Like, what did no one? She had, but she was like, it was so crazy. People couldn't figure out what I stood for. My website was filled with thousands of pages of my positions, which were no one's going to read that stuff.
That's the thing that I do like about Hillary Clinton is that she is one of us who does the homework, right? She shows up prepared. She reads the brief. She knows what she's talking about. Sure, she also represents a lot of corporate interest and not necessarily interest for the people. And she is an entrenched person. She is an incumbent of the Democratic Party. She's based on this idea of like kingmakers. She's basically the Karl Rove.
So I would argue perhaps a better Secretary of State. She did. I mean, New York liked her as a senator,
Sure,
because she did the homework and she was in the trenches.
Yes,
maybe
I
not a
think what
leader.
appealed to me in 2016 about Hillary Clinton is we had this guy who was like, doesn't read books, can barely, craft a sentence with a subject, verb, and a green, he couldn't. And then we have her who she's like, I'm studying for the debates. I do the homework. And that was where I came down on like, we need someone who reads, will read the briefs. It doesn't have to be in pictures.
Right.
And
Well, I mean, look
I'm
at
not
Winston
saying
Churchill.
that's a great way to choose a candidate, right?
Would you say Winston Churchill was a great leader?
Sure.
Okay. He famously would not read anything longer than a page if you went in to brief him on anything. Now, he was a learned person. He would sit and read books all the time. But if you
Yeah.
wanted to brief him on something, do not go into Winston Churchill's office with anything longer than a page, because he will not read it and he will throw you out of his office.
But he had at least the ability to contextualize and, I don't know. And I did like that Bill Clinton also would famously be the most well-read person in the room.
Yes.
There's
was
a
a
lot
Rhodes
about
Scholar.
their politics that's not to like, but it was just the idea. So, but I don't need that now. I don't think that that's what the country needs right now. Joe Biden does the homework. We're not anywhere,
But
I'm
Joe- but Joe
we
Biden-
can't now just vote for someone who does the
but
homework.
Joe Biden doesn't know what year it is.
There's
Okay.
a lot of reason to be hopeful in 2020.
Yeah, I think the only if there was ever a time in history that we needed to all get behind a third party, it's now.
Yes, I'm with you on this. Yeah. You can't just you vote for like preparedness. And so
No.
I've said my piece for that. I'm not
I
doing
just-
it.
think
I
we need to learn in this country to vote for someone and not against someone, because that's what we do.
Yes.
I just want to round it out on this. I just think it's interesting that, they're saying like this is the best opportunity right now for the Democratic Party. Push aside Kamala, push aside Joe Biden, step in with Hillary Clinton, run against Donald Trump, who is holding a rally in Arizona. Like, the stage is set here. 2024 is going to be one of the most interesting election cycles in American history, given what we've been through. And even Bill Clinton recently set the stage for Hillary Clinton to run again. In an interview, he said in People magazine that she's, quote, the most qualified person to run for office in my lifetime, including me, saying that in 2016 was one of the most profound mistakes we ever made, not electing her to president. And so as a nation. And so, Democrats may want to hang their hat on somebody who at least was able to, build up some kind of an approval rating that's higher than President
but
Biden.
then Democrats can't selectively cancel Bill Clinton, right?
Well,
Like they selectively don't put him in the cancel culture when he's done more than, say, Chris Noth, who is accused of
Right. I
mean,
sexual
Biden-
assault and
Biden
in the White
too,
House and
like
hanging out with
Biden-
Epstein.
Biden with the
Young girls.
girl that, I mean, he's had a lot of that too, and it's just like it just gets tossed under the rug because he's not Trump.
Well, the mainstream media won't ask those questions. Is Good Morning America going to ask tough questions of Bill Clinton or of Hillary Clinton or of Joe Biden about being with underage girls? No, they'd much
Drew,
rather
can I
talk
ask you a
about.
question? What's with sniffing girls' hair?
And they're not going to do it. Hey, you hanging out with Epstein all the time, Epstein Island. Like, Hillary, did you mind that your husband was going to Epstein Island on a regular basis? Like,
right. I think maybe they understand that there's this sort of temperament right now to, there's more of an appetite than ever to right the wrongs when it comes to gender. So let's actually give Hillary Clinton her day because she's been doing the homework and preparing herself. And so now this is her moment because of these things, right? Because our current candidate's too old and I don't know.
She would be the perfect woke candidate, I think.
Is she though?
I think she would be like, of all like the Hollywood, we want like all these women movies, like it's women first and we gave our shot to Joe Biden. It's time for women to stand up. We don't want Trump. She'd be the perfect woke Twitter candidate, I think. I just think that would be, they would love this. They would love this.
I suppose. Yeah. I guess if that's what you think by temperament right now. Right.
Let us know in the chat what you think. We're going to get to what's trending on the internet in just a minute.
We had a super chat. Joanne Morgan feels that we need Clayton for president, our lovely Natalie for first lady, and David for press secretary. Now I got a question. So that would make me basically your propagandist, Clayton. But why not vice president for me, Joanna? What did I do to get press secretary?
And how come I have to be first lady and not also vice president?
I mean, John Adams once remarked that the vice presidency is the most inconsequential office in all of American politics. John Adams, who was the vice president under George Washington. So,
it wouldn't be if I were in there.
Right.
It'd be fun.
We'd like, where's David? Oh, he's overlanding. We don't know where the vice president is.
Yeah.
I'd make Dan Quayle look really bad.
You'd be like, who's the politician that gave back the money for their office furniture? Who are we talking about?
Ron Paul.
Was it Ron Paul?
Yeah, Ron Paul.
Yeah. You'd be like that. You'd be like, I don't need this.
Oh, I would definitely.
I've got a van.
That. Yeah.
David's living in a van down by the river.
All right. Vice President, no.
More consequential.
Love it. Yeah. I would vote for that.
All right. Before we move on to trending, let's tell you about our friends. You guys want to get $7,000 in free stock? Right now, Moomoo is the fantastic exchange, the trading application. If you go to morninginvest.com/Moomoo, you can get up to $7,000 in free stock. Plus, they're giving away AMC stock right now when you make a $100 deposit. So, beautiful trading platform. I love Moomoo. They're giving, get free stocks just for opening an account. I mean, then you don't even have to do anything. But if you want to start learning how to trade, you can watch my investing channel where I teach you about what I'm doing and different trades that I'm making, right? Like I taught you guys on Sunday about a stock pick on a gold stock that's up, as of this publication, up 50% since when I was telling you about it, or 25% since when I was telling you about it, but it's already up 50% this month. So you would have made enormous profits. So we teach you how to do that on my channel. You get free real-time level 2 quotes with Moomoo, and you get $7,000. You can get up to $7,000 in free stock plus an AMC stock for free just for making that $100 deposit. Really love their application. Their desktop application is super easy to use. Their charts are fantastic, very, very intuitive. So I love to use it on my iPhone and on my desktop. Check it out today to get $7,000 in free stock. Morninginvest.com/Moomoo to see if you qualify. Plus, they have a bunch of stuff they're giving away, like iPhones and other things as well. So try them out, if you will.
All right. I'm going to talk about Howard Stern, and I'm going to not use the curse words. So I will bleep myself. Are you ready for this, folks? We're going to talk about what's trending on the internet. Howard Stern is trending because he rang in on Djokovic and the Australian Open. He said that Djokovic is a F nut and a effing a-hole. And he's okay. So here, the rest of it, I think I can do. The first I heard of this guy is that he doesn't want to get his vaccine. They should throw him right the F out of tennis. That's it. Goodbye. He went on to say that he doesn't believe that he had COVID already, which is the reason that he has said Djokovic has said, I don't want to get the vaccine because I already, I'm recovered, right, from COVID. Howard Stern doesn't believe him, and he says he should throw him out. He previously had said that Aaron Rodgers should also be thrown out of football and arrested. These are strong words, you guys.
Wow.
Strong words. I know. I usually like Howard Stern. I don't think this kind of talk is helpful, but he is trending because of it.
Jason Frank says, who is Howard Stern? It's kind of funny. I mean, his show is still massively popular on Sirius XM. He's the entire reason that Sirius XM still even survived because
That and sports.
But I'm a subscriber because I love Howard Stern. I have for years, going back to my childhood when I would deliver newspapers in the morning, listening to him on WYSP out of Philadelphia. So I'm a huge Stern fan, but I think this is a bridge too far to say. I mean, throw him in jail.
Yeah, arrested for not. Well, specifically because they were upset that he made other people think that he had the vaccine. And
well, this is the story, right? So today, Djokovic admitted that he did not immediately isolate after testing positive last month. So he said he denied knowing that he had the virus when he was at public events, and yet he knew, so people saying he knew he did. And he went to this public photo shoot and, met with a whole bunch of people who then tested positive at this French sports newspaper that he did with this media interview and photo shoot with all these guys. And he said it was an error of judgment. He shouldn't have done that. So, okay, did you know you had it or not? And you go to this event with all these other people that you could potentially, get pretty sick as a result of it. I mean,
yeah.
What if someone, I don't know. This is where it comes down to if you know you have COVID, do you go out and want to hang out with other people? Because what if someone else has a comorbidity that you could be the one that ends up giving it to that person?
Yes.
And killing that person. I think that's what Howard Stern is saying.
No, specifically, he's saying he doesn't believe that he had it. He's saying I had it so that I'm not getting the vaccine. So then I should get this medical exemption to play in the tournament. And he's saying, no, I don't believe that you had it. You should get your V and shut up or otherwise be thrown out of tennis. So, okay. Pig heart transplants is trending because a pig heart was transplanted into a dying man and he is doing well 3 days later. And I put in the newsletter yesterday that you got to think that guy's got a lifetime of pig jokes, hopefully good-natured pig jokes in his future.
You know what this proves then? Bacon is not bad for the heart.
Right.
That's a good one. I like that.
I have so many questions about this. If you've got a pig heart, we know from different transplants, right? We know that the body, there's a memory in the cellular structure.
Yes.
There's plenty, and you can look this up. There's plenty of, in fact, if you want to read a great book, she covers this, Leslie Kane, who is an amazing journalist, and she talks about this in the afterlife, studying this. And those people who have done organ transplants from people who have died, those people have had cellular memory of things. They've suddenly found that they had a liking for a taste of some kind of food that the person's organ they had transplanted into them liked. That person loved certain type of candy that the person never had in their life before, and now is I want this type of candy.
Right.
So
maybe now he doesn't want to eat pork.
Right. That's my question. Does he now not
and he
like
can
bacon?
sniff out truffles.
Right. And will he speak only in pig Latin?
And he really finds Porky Pig offensive. He's like, this is I used to like this as a kid, but now that I have a pig heart, these Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig cartoons are not funny.
Bruce, would you come inside and get out of the mud? Jeez.
He really loves Peppa Pig cartoons now too.
No, but that is cool because think about what that does scientifically. If that's the case, if you could use that, then you're going to probably have less waiting lists for heart transplants because you've got people potentially dying on waiting lists from that.
Yeah. If you look at the picture, that looks really large, though. They say the heart is just the size of your fist, right?
Yeah.
That looks big to me.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a human heart.
If you put that inside of me, I don't. You'd have to find a properly proportioned pig. I suppose.
One bigger breast.
Yes.
Yes, one side of your chest would.
Or I'd have a third boob in the middle.
I'd be a supporter of the third boob. What movie was that with Arnold Schwarzenegger? The three-breasted. Anybody in the chat can tell me?
I don't know
about that.
I don't remember, but wouldn't it be pulsating though?
Yeah,
that would be weird.
Yeah.
Okay, Brooklyn Tech is trending because hundreds of students walked out of the largest high school in the U.S. Tuesday to protest in-person school during Omicron. So they went back to class. Do you have the image of it? No. Let's see if you can find it. It's a video of basically lazy college students walking out. I don't see it, but I thought I had. Sorry, you guys. You can find it online. college students
Total
saying
recall.
no.
Thank you, Joan Mara. I couldn't remember that.
Oh.
You totally recalled that.
Yeah, a lot of people remember it in the
Yeah.
chat. Wow, I don't think I've seen that.
I do. That's the only thing I remember from that movie is that there was a woman with 3 breasts.
Okay.
You can see where my
an impact.
my adolescent mind is going.
Yeah. Do you have the video of Jenna Jameson, the adult film star?
Which one?
Look again at your folder.
No, I don't.
Not the DVDs behind you.
Not the DVDs.
No,
yeah.
if you're expecting that kind of video from Jenna Jameson, you're going to be quite disappointed of the one
No.
that we do have. Look
There's
again.
no video. You didn't put it in here.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. I'm
Give me a
telling you.
second, folks. I'm telling
I
you,
see.
it's here.
It's not there. You show me where your Jenna Jameson video is, and I will show you that I don't have it. But I know what you're talking about. She's got, what is it?
She's got Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Yeah.
Guillain, but I'm not sure. It's not like
Oh,
GMAX.
wait, don't say that.
Yeah, don't say that.
I didn't say it.
Yeah, don't say GMAX.
She's got this other thing. Yes.
That's her. That's Jenna
she
Jameson.
is saying that she has it. Her boyfriend also took to Instagram to confirm it. And people are then massively Googling it because it sounds awful. It's a neurological illness that can affect your nervous system. And people are scared that they may actually get it too. You can contract it by a viral or bacterial infection, but it's incredibly rare. So please don't freak out about it. We have enough of that in our world right now.
And it looked like she had a filter on her camera on that video. Did it not?
This
Or
is
that
her
just me?
boyfriend.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think, don't play this. I don't think that no news should put videos of kids on, but that guy voluntarily put his kid up. But this was part of the story. Anyhow. And finally, Crystal Hefner is trending. See, that one made it. This is the widow of Hugh Hefner. She's 35. She took to Instagram to let everyone know that she has removed everything fake from her body. She
Good for
says
her.
that she has stopped deriving joy from posting suggestive and naked, not naked, but like bikini type photos. She says that modesty is what empowers me these days. And because it feels so much better internally, it will probably be this way for the rest of her life. Now, she said once she started to post more modest photos of herself, she started to lose some followers, and it scared her because she said, oh, I see all these girls who are still posting suggestive body photos and they're gaining followers. Look at me doing the opposite and losing. But now she's seen that she started to gain followers again, and she's very thrilled with this sort of social media scrub.
Yeah,
And
she's gaining the right followers. The
Yeah,
followers.
she's
Like,
now
I teach people
gaining
how
a
to,
new
you know,
type of followers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I teach people how to do, like when you create online content, people have this feeling like they got to be somebody else to attract people. But if you are exactly who you are and only that, you'll attract the right people.
Yes, exactly. I had photos of her. I guess none of my images made it of her in the more suggestive photos before, but you'll have to seek those out yourself. And now she's saying she likes to be more modest.
Good.
All right.
For her.
So, yeah.
That's what I do.
Yes, Clayton doesn't post naked pictures of himself.
I don't wear makeup in my Instagram. I don't use filters. Like what you see is what you get.
Yeah,
Just out of
I
curiosity.
understand what she's saying, because sometimes you can then you always have to one up yourself, right? If
Yeah.
you're only doing suggestive things, then you have to then continue to do the suggestive things, and you're in this sort of like hedonic treadmill of who's going to validate what I look like based on what I post online. And I definitely I feel like that. I see someone post something pretty and then I'm like, oh, well then, should I do that? Should I post something looking this way? And
Joanne Morgan says, let's check back in when she's old like me. Hey, but there's those old women on Instagram that do, what is it, like Barbara, workout with Barbara?
oh
And
yeah,
she's like in her
I follow
70s.
all of that stuff. These like fit ladies in their 60s. I love that.
Like
Well, there's
workout
a whole
with,
movement
Workout
of
with Joe.
gray-haired women too, like embracing gray hair, and I love women with gray hair.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
like it too.
Like
yeah.
the woman in The Princess Bride, the guy's wife, the Billy Crystal's wife.
Get out of
Oh,
here.
man.
Yeah.
You get out of here right now.
He loves in was it the Neverending Story too? The housekeepers at the top of the windmill that live on the line.
Yes.
Well, like Keanu Reeves' girlfriend, like that
Yeah.
look. I'm going for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, that's going to do it for the show today. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new here. You know, YouTube shows us that like 70% of you watch the show, but you're not subscribed. It's simple. All you got to do is click on the little subscribe button and turn on the little bell notification, because we do this show every day at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So you can join us every day right here on Morning Invest.
And hit that like button. Do we have any super chats to get through besides the one that asks us to run for office, which we're not going to do?
Yes, we have just a couple. We have Whip It Crypto. We have had panic buying here for ages, mostly toilet paper, pasta, canned foods. It got to the point that you could only buy 2 cans of certain items, and that's in Australia.
Wow.
And then you guys need a politician. The same Whip It Crypto, same. You guys need a president that isn't a career politician. And
Yeah.
I agree. But the
So,
problem is we end up
him
getting
saying you guys,
somebody
he's
that
in
isn't,
Australia.
and they become one.
Yeah.
Oh, we just got breaking news on Prince Andrew real quick.
Oh,
He is going to have to deal with this court battle. So that's not being dismissed. So just breaking news, Prince Andrew will have to face a court battle with his accuser. So this lawsuit will go forward. Just thought I'd share, because we've been covering that story here on the show. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it. That's all of them.
That's it? All right. Yep. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll be back a little bit later today with an investing video over on the investing channel. So if you go to youtube.com/Clayton Morris, where I post investing videos over there, we're tracking what's going on in the crypto space as the US dollar continues to decline. Interesting to see Bitcoin rebounding at around 42,000. So some good news on that side. Again, youtube.com/Clayton Morris, how to do that over there. All right.
all right. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.